Rowdy Piper. Sorry, I had you muted there. Rowdy Piper on Bill Maher was fantastic.
The old politically
incorrect,
one. Yeah, he's fucking
incorrect,
awesome.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right,
Love
we
Piper.
are fading to black. Let's just do this thing. There it is right there. Let's get that out of your guys' faces. All right, going live in 5, 4, 3. Hey everybody, it's not Tuesday, it's Friday. Welcome to the Giant Bombcast Revengeance podcast. I'm Jeff Grubb from GiantBomb.com, and I have a full crew with me, starting with Timur Hussein. Tam, how are you doing?
How is Chelsea Handler? Is Chelsea Handler a good one?
I
never
remember she
watched her
existed
show.
recently. She was a big thing like 10, 15 years ago,
Yeah.
I'd say.
Definitely felt she was everywhere, but fell off hard.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
How was
So
that
Bill Maher's
Samantha?
still the favorite.
Oh, Tam, you gotta stop. How was Samantha Bee's show? I never watched it.
Mike Drucker was executive producer on it, so I have not seen it, but there had to be some funny stuff.
Had to be something to it. Yeah, Drucker does good stuff. We also have Niki Grayson. Niki Grayson, how's it going?
Hello. Something I've learned in the last couple of minutes is that my hair is still wet.
Oh.
And it's kind of dripping down my back in a way that's kind of unpleasant.
Before a podcast, are you like, before Roman Reigns comes out and he sprays his hair?
Honestly,
do you do that?
Not unlike that. Yeah, that is kind of what I did today. I did hop in the shower and mostly focus on my hair, and then I did this a couple of times to get it to go. And now there's shit all over my glasses. So
You're the OTC of Giant Bomb.
that's exactly right.
Friend of Denim, Dan Reichert. Dan Reichert, how are you doing?
I'm not an enemy of denim.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
I'm doing great, but I'm not an enemy of denim.
You're
I don't think
neutral?
about it. I guess I'm wearing I'm wearing the like extreme stretchy motion jeans. So I don't know if this is like actual denim, but it's like what I think like Dean Ambrose would wear,
Right.
They're very stretchy. Yeah.
It's the motion engine. Yeah. They had the emotion engine, then they got the motion engine. They put it in jeans. It's very good stuff.
Yes. If you break down a PS3 like an Avowed, you get stretchy jeans.
Right.
Yeah.
Then you can reconstitute it into jeans now. Yes.
Yes.
And then Nathan Grayson with us as well, special guest. Thank you for joining us. Nathan Grayson, you have a book.
I do. It's called Stream Big, The Triumphs and Turmoils of Twitch and the Stars Behind the Screen. And it will be out on the 18th. You can pre-order it now if you really want to, or you can just wait and order it normally. It's your call.
Yeah.
Are we looking at the cover behind your head?
Right now.
Is the cover of the book on your wall there? Nice. Look at that.
That's good
Hell
stuff.
yeah.
Oh, and then my camera immediately goes out of focus. Fantastic.
Oh, there it is.
That's okay.
I was reading it last night. You had the publisher send me a copy. I appreciate that. It's
Wow. What the fuck?
I know, right? I just specifically blocked you all out from getting a copy too.
Yeah.
Nathan's like, does anyone else want one? I'm like, no, only I get this.
I would read that.
And I felt really bad about that. That actually really hurt me.
And then I said, you be quiet. Let me read my book. I'm trying to read here. It like really starts off. I'm like, oh yeah, God, this is such a dramatic story of like all of this small community of people who are just doing a thing they really liked, and then how it blew up, and of course, like all things, gets subsumed by a conglomerate, and how it has to change to meet the needs of the new master, and how the people who were there from the beginning feel about that, and how they used to just hire from the community. Like, there's so many fascinating aspects. I guess let's do the basic questions first. Like, what prompted you to want to start writing about this, other than, of course, you've been following this for a very long time, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's a big part of it. And then the other part is that I think that there are a number of books about like different platforms, different social media platforms. There are books at this point about YouTube, about TikTok, about pretty much all the big ones. But they're very focused on the platforms themselves. They're like, a history of this platform, a whatever of this platform. I wanted to do something that was more creator focused. And so for my book, the first chapter is kind of like an overview of Twitch and its history. But even then, through the eyes of one creator, that being DJ Wheat, who's a person who used to be a very early live streaming creator, went on to become one of the first Twitch employees. And then every other chapter is about just like a particular creator and their life and the way that the platform has shaped them and the way that they in turn have shaped the platform. And so it's much more people focused, I think, than a lot of these books tend to be. And I kind of wanted to tell the story that way because I think the story of Twitch is very much one about its creators.
Mm-hmm.
It wouldn't be what it is without creators. So much of its early growth and development was centered around the company hiring people from its own community and like making decisions around what they wanted. And so much of the controversy that has ensued since has been about people saying, hey, you guys have kind of lost your way. You've stopped caring so much about creators. You've started doing everything in service of profit and what Amazon wants from you. And that's not going over as well. So I wanted to sort of explore the material impacts of that on the people who are on that platform.
Yeah, and it's got to help that, like, you know, by talking to the people who are part of the community, a lot of them are big names, stars, people that have a history that is somewhat known by their audience, but maybe there's some aspects or some thoughts they've had that you can elucidate a little bit better. Were there some things that that surprised you to learn when you were talking to these streamers and these creators?
Yeah, in a lot of cases, because also like what I ended up doing for this book is for every like big interview, for the ones that kind of are the backbone of each chapter, I did them in person. And usually like at that person's house or like in a place that represented their place of work, essentially. Because I think that when it comes to Twitch and other platforms like it, you can have this misconception that you understand or know everything about like your favorite creator.
Yeah.
Because I mean, you see them for like, you know, depending on how much you watch, it could be up to 8-10 hours per day. A lot of people don't watch that much. They probably tune in for a couple hours here and there. But, you know, doing that, you're like, okay, well, I see all the work they do. I know them. And therefore I don't need to know anymore. But there's a ton of invisible labor that goes into live streaming and content creation. There's a lot of stuff that happens in the background that people don't see when the cameras are off. And I wanted to sort of be able to capture some of that and show what that's like and all of the different like other people that contribute to that, not just the streamer. So I also ended up talking to like people's friends and families and their moderators and their editors and their staff and, you know, pretty much anyone that I could get in front of a microphone. And then like through that, I learned a lot of surprising stuff. Like, I mean, one of the chapters is about Hassan Piker, who I'm sure you all know and follow. When I was at his place, his mom happened to be around. And so he was kind of cagey on the subject of swattings and things of that nature.
Right.
But, you know, Hassan has a pretty well-known house. It was the source of some controversy a couple years back because people were like, a leftist buying a house, that's impossible. And so he wouldn't really talk about that. And so I was like, hey, Hassan's mom, will you talk about this? And she was like, oh, absolutely. I'll tell you all sorts of stories. And I was like, great. Hassan's going to be mad about this, but it still works for me.
So when you're building like the structure of the book and you like begin to like piece together these the things you're learning from these interviews, do you begin building like an overarching narrative of like, here's the beginning of Twitch and the people that were there at the beginning, and here's how these things have changed and got complicated over time? Like, how does that narrative reveal itself to you?
I think it depends on the particular creator, because what I tried to do is get a mix of people who were like instrumental to Twitch's growth and, you know, sort of represented like landmark figures on the platform. And then like, you know, again, one person who was kind of who worked for the company and was part of it. And then I also wanted like smaller creators too. So people who have existed on it, not necessarily seen instant success. And in one particular instance, like, you know, grinded really hard for success, like kind of had this viral moment and then tried to capitalize on that and like literally broke her body in the process. I wanted to sort of represent all of these different ways that being a creator on a platform like Twitch, one that more than anything wants your time, can unfold. And so it was really more just like I sat down and I talked to them. And then over the course of, because again, like the initial interviews for each of these chapters were like 5 hours long. So just, you know, these things would reveal themselves to me as we conversed. You know, there'd be times where I was like talking to somebody and thinking like, oh, there it is. Like that's the opening scene of the book, or that's the opening scene of the chapter. I got it.
That's I could totally see how that works out that way sometimes. When you talk to these people and when you begin like seeing the common themes, what do you get the sense that people believe is the future of Twitch from this point, like going forward? Like how are people feeling about it now?
I mean, I don't think people are feeling super great about Twitch at the moment, for a few reasons. One of them is that at this point, Amazon really wants Twitch to turn a profit. It remains unprofitable. And so as a result, Twitch has taken to, overloading the site with ads, which everybody has been able to witness that. You'll be watching your favorite streamer, like a GDQ run or something, and then you get hit with a 2-minute ad block out of nowhere, and you're like, that killed all of my enjoyment of this. I'm just angry now.
I actually think that's a good experience, personally.
You're like, thank you, Jeff Bezos.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jeff Bezos.
Totino's Pizza Rolls. I did not know about these.
Finally. You're telling me that they're making another Honda? That's crazy.
A sequel to Honda?
Man, that would be a great way for them to sell cars, to be like, this is the final Honda. We're never making another Honda. And then the next day, like, just kidding.
Just kidding.
So there's that. And then there's also the fact that Amazon is, I think, with Twitch trying to cut its way to profitability too. So in the past couple of years, they've laid off almost 1,000 people from a company that previously had a little bit over 2,000. So that's like almost half the company. And so as a result, I think Twitch is kind of just in this holding pattern, and they've been releasing like little new features where they can, but nothing that has genuinely changed the platform in quite some time. They're also like really focused on this one platform this one feature called Guest Star that no one really seems to care about or use. It's just all this stuff where people look at Twitch and they say, okay, it's kind of languishing. It's in a holding pattern. It doesn't seem like Amazon wants to really grow or expand it anymore or help it find new audiences. And so it's just sort of like best case scenario, it kind of stays here. Absolute worst case scenario, Amazon eventually says, okay, this is not working for us anymore. Let's put this in what Amazon calls maintenance mode, where they basically wind down a product and they stop updating it. They just keep it sort of functional, but they don't do anything with it anymore. It's the bare minimum, essentially.
But last time I checked, they were trying to pivot into like weird TikTok area with a redesign of the app. Because I watch a lot of Twitch. I try my best now to stay away from the app because it is atrocious.
Yep, everyone hates it.
Stories. The stories.
Well, they
stories like functionality.
Yeah, that, and also like they formatted the main page to be like a swipe up to go through your different, and it's awful because it's all encapsulated, and like you open the app, if you press, it will give you a stream. Like let's say I'm watching Giant Bomb, it'll give you a stream immediately. Then if I press Giant Bomb, if I hit the stream button, it opens another instance of it, and you're like, this is the dumbest thing. And it's the kind of thing where I feel like if one person tested it, they would know this is bad. So it just makes me feel like no one there is paying any attention on what's going on. It's like close to unusable on a mobile phone.
Yeah, well, it's also that classic issue of, there's still plenty of people at the company that care, but a lot of the people who have power don't really use the platform or understand it or give a shit in ways that would prevent something catastrophic like that from
And then
happening.
they hear something, it'll be like TikTok, and they're like, well, that sounds good, so let's do that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's also like an interesting situation because there was clamor from the community for that kind of a feature.
Sure, something about discoverability.
There was this moment where when they were putting all of the ads, or like, when they were flooding Twitch with ads, people were like, well, what you could do is create a stories like functionality and put it in the app and then put ads on that, because then you're not missing anything live necessarily. You just put it over people's VODs and their clips. And so this is a version of that, but I think it's much more front and center within the app than people wanted it to be. And as Timur was saying, like it takes over the entire interface that you experience by default. Like you're in this like river of stories essentially. And yeah, it's not well done. It's one of many gaffes that they've had in the past year or two. Yeah,
it's the story of everything right now, right? They like a lot of the decisions.
And shitification.
And they make it worse to make more money. Yeah, we can make a little bit more money if we make it a little bit worse.
I got a question about. I mean, like how much of the future? I guess you kind of answered the question, kind of. But how much of the kind of roadmap for Twitch have you been able to glean from these interviews? Because I know most recently, like they had that time where they were just throwing money at various creators, and Hassan's one of them. He openly talks about having a very specific contract that he no longer has. He no longer has it, so there's no more top of the hour ad breaks. But it feels like that's part of the kind of step away from trying to make Twitch happen. Did you get any sense from the creators of where Twitch is going, or did you get any sense on how dedicated these Twitch creators are going to be to the platform itself, because some of them have now moved to multi-streaming, but then some of them are like coming back to Twitch. Like I think, is it Ludwig or someone like that recently came back?
Ludwig returned to Twitch.
And like Hassan said, he wouldn't stream elsewhere and that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So a couple of things happened here. One is that a lot of those contracts that big streamers had, because, to be clear for the audience, there was a period of time where big name streamers, people like Hassan or Pokimane when she was still Twitch exclusive, or even did Ludwig ever have one? He might have. He had
a YouTube one.
They had these multi-million-dollar contracts that were, keeping them exclusive to particular platforms. But that was kind of like the meta in the like 2020 to like 2022, 2023 era. And that's in part because YouTube emerged as a competitor to Twitch. They were directly trying to steal, or not steal, but, cultivate an audience like Twitch's. And so they started pulling over creators from Twitch by saying, hey, we'll give you millions of dollars if you come over here. Even though like our audience for live streaming is not quite as big, and you might lose some of your audience in the transition, we'll more than make up for that by giving you all this money. And so a lot of creators did it. And as a result, Twitch was like, well, we got to do something now. And so Twitch already had like some exclusivity contracts in place, but the amount that they were paying for those went way up, and it became this bidding war. And because of the way that streaming works, these platforms were not making that amount of money back on those creators. Like ads and subscriptions were not making millions of dollars. And so it was more about like clout or prestige. It was to be able to say, we have these particular people, therefore you should be over here watching our platform, not the other one. But then everyone kind of collectively realized that they were overpaying for streamers. And so as contracts expired in the past couple of years, they just let them lapse.
Or they just shut down their entire platform. It's like, no more Mixer.
Mixer was, that was just a disaster because Microsoft owned that. They theoretically had the money to keep it going. They had made some big deals with people like Ninja and Shroud. And then not even a year after they made those deals, which were set for 2 years. They're like, never mind, we give up.
And they paid the money, but it's like clearly they looked at the numbers very quickly and were like, oh, we did an oopsie. We didn't do this very good. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's also just really hard to make money on live streaming in general.
Of course.
Because a platform like Twitch, as it expands, as it gains more users, it also becomes more expensive to run.
With that calculator, there's a calculator like the live streaming cost calculator. Is that thing accurate? Like how many minutes per, how many people watch or whatever? Like you could do a little calculation and it says, oh, that stream cost Twitch $40,000 for a couple hours.
That's almost certainly napkin math. Right. I doubt that it's like fully accurate. But it is generally correct that, like as a platform like Twitch grows, it becomes more expensive to run. And as a result, a company like Amazon has to find new ways to monetize it. Now, there's some other Amazon is also making up the math as it goes. So like, is Twitch profitable? Is it not? It depends on how you decide where Twitch is making money. There's a lot of tech Amazon uses that Twitch originally developed. And now Amazon charges Twitch to use that tech internally. So
that's really smart.
Really easy way to make a company not profitable.
Holy crap.
Yeah.
My biggest worry is Amazon will do what it did to Twitch, what it did to Comixology, where they just like stripped it of any sort of presence and kind of like any independence, and Comixology no longer exists. It's a shell. The kind of Kindle. It's like folded into Kindle, and it's one of the worst reading experiences for digital comics that I've ever seen. And my fear is, as much as I think Twitch is not great to use right now, it's going to be much worse when they just jam it into like a Prime Video or something like that. So it's a big concern about that. One other question I had. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, Twitch is also like where the community is, right? And so if Amazon ever pulls the plug or degrades it so much that people have nowhere to go, or they end up leaving, then that thing that makes Twitch special, that reason that like a lot of streamers have returned to Twitch, for example, after being on YouTube and cultivating audiences there, that goes away. And if that goes away, what, if anything, takes its place?
Yeah.
One other thing that I'm interested in, I don't know if you explore it, I'll find out when I read the book, but do you kind of explore the impact that politics has on the growth of Twitch and perhaps other platforms? Because, you have the likes of Aiden Ross, for example, being a huge presence in the streaming space, and then having his right-wing pivot and then going to, a specific platform. And, currently the biggest, I believe, political streamer is Asmongold, who, originally started off as a World of Warcraft person and now has interesting perspectives on life, and that kind of like that the ebb and flow of it, and the success
this generation
of it.
Socrates. Yes.
Well, let's not mince words. Asmongold called Palestinians like a lesser people.
Yes.
Oh yeah, I've let's not mince words. That dude is a fucking gremlin. So
he also gags when he drinks water, which not as bad, but pretty bad still.
I mean, so do gremlins.
That's true. Okay,
exactly.
You know what? Good point.
Yeah.
Didn't think about it.
Yeah. So any kind of like that exploration of that.
Oh yeah. So the last chapter in the book is about Hassan, and it uses him as kind of a lens through which to view that section of the live streaming world and how it's grown and how it's become its own sort of portion of Twitch, and even a little bit, like we're saying, what it means for people to sort of cross-pollinate into doing politics when their original background is not being a political streamer, or even like necessarily in the case of somebody like Aiden Ross, having much knowledge in that space. Like Aiden Ross, will talk about politics when he's going down some red pill rabbit hole, but it's not like he studies this stuff. It's not like he's read history. There was a clip of him trying to like sound out like a very common word.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, right.
What word was that? It was something pertaining to like politics. And I was like,
that drove me crazy.
Yeah. I'm going to find it. Find it.
Yeah. But, nonetheless, this is a guy who...
He said fascist?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's right. He was trying to sound out fascist, which is perfect, by the way, given that he, months later had Donald Trump on his stream and conducted a long interview with him that drew like almost 500,000 concurrent viewers, a ridiculous number, as you yourselves know, as people who stream.
Rating those regularly.
I think
it was ultra nationalist.
Ultra nationalist.
Right.
Okay. I mean, still, absolutely perfect word for him to not be able to say. But yeah, like it's hard to measure the impact of these things on like an election. But there was disproportionate turnout of young men voting in favor of Trump. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to conclude Aiden Ross's stream and others like it might have had some impact on that.
I just think that there's such an interesting lack of acknowledgement by institutionalized powers on how straight the fucking line is, re political movements being empowered by people who are watching shit on twitch.tv. And it's like and like radicalized by Reddit, and in the wake of Gamergate, like it is simply a straight line with no variance or ups and downs, ebbs and flows. It is literally a straight line. You can track every single beat and be like, oh yeah, all of this makes 100% sense. Yes, and it's like, absolutely fueled and empowered by these platforms. I would say, quick note,
Aiden Ross is on Kick, not Twitch. But it's a similar culture. Aiden Ross came from Twitch originally. He got banned for not preventing people from being racist in his chat, and it's not surprising what he's turned into with that history in mind.
Oh, okay. Let's give people the details on the book again. So it's out next week. They can pre-order it from where? What should they know?
You can pre-order it pretty much wherever books are sold. There's like a main link though from Simon & Schuster, who's the publisher. If you just search like Stream Big Book, you can probably find that on Google. Somebody can drop it into the number of chats that y'all maintain.
Yeah, if you're in Time Chat, it's up at the top, and then I will head over to Twitch chat and pop it in there.
Oh yeah,
I just pre-ordered it. Is there a preferred place you would want us to get it from, in terms of like cuts and that kind of stuff?
Sorry, I gotta see if I can do this.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Wow.
You gotta like line it up perfectly, and then you move it, and it's like it's still there. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Perfect.
Exactly. I should have done that sooner. Yeah. But is there a preferred place? No, just get it where you get it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Great.
Also,
I got a Kindle version.
If any viewers or listeners are in New York, there's a launch party on Sunday at Wonderville in Bushwick.
Okay, very cool.
Yeah, it's at 2 p.m. Come through.
Last real quick question. Who optioned the book, and when's the movie come out?
Nobody so far, although when I first got the deal, because I got the book deal forever ago, and then the pandemic happened, and I had to sort of pause working on it for a minute because doing stuff in person was functionally impossible. And so like the day after I got the book deal in 2019, some person emailed me and was like, yeah, we could turn this into a movie. And I was like, A, how? And B, hold your horses.
Yeah.
The book is not even close to finish. Yeah. So
Can I be
we'll
you?
see.
We have the same last name. Does that work?
Yeah, you can play.
Yeah, that's how
Nathan.
acting
I wanna
works.
play
You'll
Hassan.
note that every
Great.
single
I look
actor's
exactly
always
like
played
him.
somebody with their last name.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Cool.
Yeah.
That's
Excellent.
binding. Sorry, bud.
All right. What we're going to do is, Sean, I'm going to say, hey, we're going to take a break right now. We'll come back with more after this for the podcast version. And then for the live version, we're going to come right back.
Woohoo.
Okay. So let's talk about Split Fiction. Let's see. Niki and Tam, you both were in LA recently, earlier this week, was it, to play Split Fiction, or was it late last week?
Fuck me running.
That was
actually
not
Monday.
supposed to be the hard question.
Yeah, no, it was
this
on
week.
Monday.
Oh
That was
my
Monday.
God.
Okay, well, that's
Holy
nuts.
shit.
I mean, it's understandable given the state of
Man,
things.
that's crazy.
All right. Tell me about Split Fiction. Just as a quick reminder, Joseph Ferris, Hazelight, is that the name of their studio? Hazelight Studio?
Yes.
Their
Yeah.
new game, people made Brothers, people that made It Takes Two, Game of the Year, 23 million copies sold, very popular in China because apparently divorce is popular in China now. I think that's a shoot.
Popular?
Yes, popular. Yes.
Is that the word?
Divorce is
Like they
hot.
like it?
Yeah, they are like into divorce in China right now, and that's
Yeah,
what,
you
like
know
one of the
about
things helping that
popular.
came out.
Divorce is over, brother.
Okay, so you guys, you played it. What are the basics that people should know, and how'd you find it?
Do you remember It Takes Two?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Cool. Thank you, Nick.
See you next week, everyone. Yeah, I mean, like it is pretty accurate. That
Yeah.
kind of format is something that they like to stick close to. I think perhaps A Way Out is the biggest departure from it, but in the same way that It Takes Two is a collection of really wildly varying ideas, Split Fiction is very similar, and it still has a cohesive element to it. And it was like top-down, broad kind of take on it. It was a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun playing that game.
Yeah. I think something that I was trying to figure out how to talk about this when I was like in the shower today. I was like trying to form my words. And it's in a way that is not denigrating to the game at all. It's like it's more of the last one. And if you really liked the last one, you're gonna really like this one. There are new, different ideas. It feels like they came up with a huge list of ideas on ways to do 2-player co-op experiences. They put some of them in the last one, and then the last one sold, you said 23 million copies. So Joseph went to EA and said, you're going to give me triple the budget. And they said, absolutely. And then they gave him however much money he wanted. And then now the ideas are bigger and better. And I think that the beautiful thing about the time that I spent with Split Fiction was that none of it, and It Takes Two had this, I think, to a different degree, but really, really felt this with Split Fiction. It didn't feel like any of the stuff that I was doing felt throwaway. It all felt like team was really like, okay, we're making a pinball level where one person is the ball and then the other person is controlling the paddles. What if we made sure that every single part of this experience felt good? It didn't feel like any of it was like second thought or like well, sometimes it did feel like one person had to play second fiddle. And I want to talk to you about that, Tam, because I did feel like there were some bits where I was like, fuck, I wish I was being Jan right now. And I'm sure Jan also...
If you're the ball
does
you're kind
platforming.
of helpless, right?
Dude,
ball
that
is
pinball
platforming.
level was the bit where I
Hard
was
as
like,
fuck. Yeah.
this needs reworking.
Yes.
Oh, really?
So yeah, the ball physics didn't feel very good,
No.
but like
Backlash gonna be so pissed.
Yeah, he's gonna be mad. There was like aftertouch on the ball also, which like so the ball would go in the air and then you would kind of be able to move it left and
It's
right.
like
in
Burnout.
space.
Okay, sweet.
A lot
Yeah,
like
it's pretty
Burnout. Yeah.
I went to Tiger Woods.
But yeah,
That too.
Tim, did you at any point feel like you were wishing that you were being the role that Lucy was? And
No,
did Lucy feel like
I don't think so. I think the balance there is good because there are times where one person, like for example, in the pinball level, Lucy was the ball and I was the flippers. And it can feel like the other person is having more fun, but I think they do a good job of inverting that as much as they can. So there'll be a level fairly soon after where you'll be having the fun thing and the other person is doing kind of like the support thing. And that is to say, neither time is like, it wasn't like Lucy was having all the fun and I was just like, no. It was like, I kind of want to be the ball to try it out, or that kind of stuff. The pinball one was rough because the ball, based on me watching Lucy, who's good at games and was like, we were both struggling through this. The ball felt a bit too heavy and wasn't like jumping as high as you want it to. And then the flippers, which is what I had, there was like a delay to when you hit the button and the flip actually happening. So we were constantly not able to kind of synchronize properly. That's a very small thing that they will hopefully iron out. But that part of it was like, whatever. Then, a few sections later, we were in this like motorbike section in a futuristic like a city where we're being chased by like a helicopter with a gunner on it, and we're both on the bike. I'm controlling the bike, and Lucy is trying to disarm a bomb by reading through a end user license agreement and doing a capture on a mobile phone that is like moving around chaotically. And it was like we were both like I was technically having the fun there, but she was like in the next to me just screaming like, I can't use this thing, I can't do the capture. So like it balances out, and then we're two pigs, and my traversal ability is the ability to fart and launch myself, and she's a spring, and it's like, there's always a good balance. It's not like if you take control of me or the other character is like done and bored for the rest of the time. There's a good like back and forth.
That back and forth between facilitation of fun and then doing the fun, that relationship is really good, and then which makes the moments where you're both in the same space as. Like, because the game does create environments where it's like, oh, we're separated, and then we're kind of back together doing the same thing. Where they're like, oh, we're both doing the same platforming style situation. We're both doing the same. There's a stage that we played. I'll take a step back. In the way that this demo was formatted, because we played a 3-hour chunk and they jumped us around a bunch. It sometimes felt like we were in a car that all of a sudden, sometimes the handbrake would get pulled because we would finish the stage and we'd be like, oh, can't wait to see what's going to happen. And they would put a big black screen screen, and then it would have some white text on it that would be like, now we're going to take you to the sci-fi time. Press A. And then I kind of was like, it would fucking bang if that was how the game actually was. Like, it would be awesome if they were like, we're sci-fi time, no transitions. We couldn't figure it out. That's just how it goes. But yeah, I lost my train of thought. The part, we moved into the dragon zone. Did y'all get that far in the demo?
Yeah.
And that was really cool because there were these two, you're in the fantasy chunk. The core conceit of the game, if you don't know, is that these two people get book deals, what they think are book deals. They go into this publishing company that very obviously, gang, I don't know who the fuck these girlies are. Read the contract and look at the building. That's not what publishing houses look like. There are so many steps on the path to they got stuck inside the computer, which is what happens to them, that I would have been like, nah, I'm okay. I think I'm good. I think I'm so good on this one.
I left something on the car and then just never come back.
One of the characters immediately is like, what the and the other one's like, I'm so excited to get my book deal by having my ideas sucked out of my brain. It's like, all right, whatever.
That's how it works.
Yeah, that's just how it works.
I can attest to this.
One of the characters is a fantasy writer, and then the other one is a sci-fi writer, and then you are moving back and forth throughout the two genres, and you're moving back and forth between their ideas. There's one part where you're a dragon, you're both dragons, and there was such interesting back and forth there because I was kind of under the impression that that ability set was going to be the same for both dragons, but one of the dragons couldn't fly and actually had a Sonic the Hedgehog spin dash roll situation. So you're like knocking this ball around, trying to do like puzzles where you're moving this ball through this stage, and then the other dragon can spit acid to like blow up the ball and fill up a cup that will move bits of the level. So it really does subvert what you are under, like what your expectation is for that format. I was like, oh, we're gonna be dragons, we're gonna be fighting other little monsters because we're fucking dragons, and we're like, no, it's puzzles. And I was like, oh, okay, I like puzzle. Like this is
that
good.
That part was really cool because they kind of make sure that you're having different paces in the type of cooperation that you're doing. So in that dragon section, it's very much like take your time, figure out how you solve this puzzle. For the longest time, I didn't know my dragon could fly because I wasn't moving when I hit the fly button. I was just like, fly, fly, fly. It wouldn't work. And then Lucy was like, move, you fucking didn't hit the fly button. Like, all right, man. And then, so like, that's a very kind of like at your own pace. And then like the final level of the demo is very much not at your own pace cooperation. It's like a side-scrolling shooter, like a twin stick shooter, but it's also got like that Ikaruga element where you can only interact with your assigned color. But it means that when it splits you up, it's like she had like a wall of fire coming towards her, and the kind of block in front of her was my color. So I had to quickly divert my attention from platforming to shoot her thing to help her out and back and forth. And it was like we had to fight bosses together where it was like, oh, I can't hit him. You need to hit him with your color. So that was like intense cooperation. I think in the demo that we played, they spread out that kind of different pacing of cooperation really well.
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
I was just going to ask, so you guys mentioned a very similar in terms of the way it plays to It Takes Two. I think It Takes Two was a very solid game. Obviously, a lot of people really love it. Where do you see, if you do see refinements, where are they? And do you get the sense maybe that the pacing might be a little bit tighter? Because the one complaint I always hear about It Takes Two is it maybe dragged on a little bit.
I think the thing that's so hard for this is like they very explicitly were like, we're bouncing you around.
Right.
So we don't know if any of it overstays its welcome because we were really never doing anything for too long.
Right.
Because I also felt the same with It Takes Two. I was like, wow, I get it, gang. Like I had a good time and was having a good time, but like at this point, I'm over it. I'm here so I can finish the game. I have no idea, like if they've trimmed it down that.
Like taking an editor's eye to it or anything like that. We're going to have to wait and see. We're not going to wait long. This game's out next month.
Yeah, it's next month, like on the 3rd or 6th, 7th?
6th, I think it's like
early.
A little over 2 weeks away.
It's really soon. The other thing I will say is I think this one will have a longer, or I think I can see myself being invested in it longer than It Takes Two, because at some point with It Takes Two, I was like, God, these fucking people just shouldn't be together. Like the narrative of it made me kind of quit on the me playing it, because I was like, these people just, you're hurting your child. Like I was like, this kind of sucks. I didn't really want to participate in it anymore. And because this story is not that, I think I will be more willing to kind of be invested in it. And I think that's just like a time, place, setting situation. So.
Yeah, I think that's the right kind of angle on that one. It's more of a case of two people discovering commonalities and building a friendship than it is like the degradation of a relationship in slow, drawn out, whimsical way.
Yeah, it is a more complex story, I guess, but it is an easier story to swallow.
Yeah, yeah.
One of my favorite moments last year was at the Game Awards where Joseph Ferris was on stage and he pointed out that he does still have a wife because people just think of him as the divorce game guy. It was pretty funny.
I mean, the two characters are named after his daughters, I believe.
Oh, very cool.
Which is cool. I also would like to know, Niki, about dried mango, because you had an experience with dried mango during this.
Is this the crowd?
I think I might. Hold on. Fucking stall. I think I have it.
Okay.
Put them on black.
Dude, this is just like a random stupid thing on the side, but like they had snacks and shit at this event, and Niki like
threw it away.
tricked me into eating some dried mango, which is genuinely
that's not what fucking happened.
You looked at me and said, "You like mango?" And I was like, "I love mango." And you were like, "Dude, try this."
And then I said, "Try this. It's really bad." And then you said,
it was already in my mouth by that point.
It was the wackest dried mango I've ever had. It came in a bag that looked like Cheez-Its. Like the color scheme was exactly Cheez-Its.
So far, so
I
good.
opened it, and then it was crunchy. And dried mango is fine if it's like, there are many textures that you can dry a mango at. Mango. But this was like, it was crunchy, and as soon it tasted rancid to me. Would you also describe it this way? And then the worst part is that it just sat in your fucking molars. Like you took, like 2 bites of it, and all it did was like a third of it went down your fucking gullet, and then the rest of it just sat in the
embeds yourself in your teeth. Yeah,
it's the dried mango. It's a dried mango that you would find in like a Fallout vault.
Yes. That is exactly right. Yes. Yeah. And like it wouldn't have even hit. That's how bad it was. I still would have been pissed if it was Fallout. Yeah. If I was like, oh shit, yeah, dried mango. I haven't had fruit ever. And then I've opened the package. I'm still pissed. That's how bad it was.
Yeah. Man, that's what we need, though. We need to be able to taste the next Fallout game.
Yeah.
On stage. I mean, like in this Sony's one, everything you encounter, not only can you pick it up and like put it in your inventory, you can lick it first.
It's got Todd Taste technology. All right, let's go.
Yeah, Todd Taste is the most cursed thing I've ever heard.
Thank you.
They gave out Nuka-Colas at E3 2006, and they were pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I bought a Nuka-Cola when they were selling them for Fallout 4, and I was like, this is soda.
Yeah.
Niki, before we move on to Avowed, my understanding is that you and Jan did some sort of gaming performance that attracted an audience, a lot of attention. Okay. What happened there?
So we didn't realize. I think Jan and I were, and Jan has all of the audio, so I think it would be fun once the video game comes out if we just put the video out, because Jan and I were just streaming, but for ourselves. But at some point, someone like Jan, Tam, you took this picture.
I took the photo, because we could see straight.
Yeah, and we had Jan and I were just playing the game, talking to each other, and then apparently at some point there were like 6 or 7 people from the Split Fiction team.
Every member of the development team was
we're just standing behind us and watching us play, and we had literally no idea. We were just like, it's time to play video game. So I think they were having a good time watching us, which is like, honestly, that's probably like 30 or 40% why they do these events.
Oh yeah.
It's like, is the game fun? Do people like it? Yep. So it was fun. It was a cool event. It is a weird little studio in Hollywood. It was nice in there. I had a slider that was good.
Was the tomato appropriately sized for it, or what?
No, it was not.
Oh, I'm sorry.
The beef slider was bad. The chicken slider, A+.
Also, sliders and video game events. Name a more iconic duo.
No, there is none.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They love those guys.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right. This game's out March 6th. We said on everything. Is it on Switch?
PS5. I was just looking at that. It's definitely PS5, Steam, and Xbox.
Okay. All right.
I would assume that it is not coming to the original Xbox or to the original Switch because it's Unreal 5.
Correct.
But I would bet that it is coming to Switch 2 as soon as they are allowed to say that video games are coming to the Switch 2.
Yep. That's
not confirmed.
That would be not confirmed, but it would be nuts if it didn't.
It
has
Switch,
it has that friend pass thing where one of you buy it, the other one gets it.
That's actually really handy.
That's neat.
Yes, that like not many games do that, but this one did. It's like the other person just fully gets the game. It's not like the download play you had on the 3DS or whatever. It's like, no, this is a full pass to actually owning the game. It's very neat.
And it's also really smart because think about the number of games that have sold on like word of mouth and co-op over the past handful of years. Like Lethal Company blew up because of that shit. And so if you can bake that into the way that your game is sold and marketed, then like you're vastly increasing its chances of selling well.
Yeah.
And it also creates
I was going to say, I talked to Joseph Ferris, and that is something that we talked about, where it's kind of interesting where Hazelight has developed their own kind of like mini ecosystem, where they're the only ones that are really making these types of split screen co-op games, and they're making good ones, and then they have the friend pass thing where it's like, so if you play one of these and you're like, oh, that was good, I like more of that, pretty much the only thing that you're going to get is one of their games, and you can rope someone else into playing that again with you by buying one copy, and then you play that one and you're like, I want to mine another one, and it's another one of their games. So it's like really smart.
Yeah, that knock-on effect I think is really big because even if it isn't in that like that loop, a person who has played off of the free copy can then be like, I'm gonna buy it and I'll play it with a different person as the other role that I didn't play. So it's a really good loop. Folks in chat are asking if it has single player support. No, find a friend.
No. Yep. It's harder than you might. I didn't play It Takes Two because I had no one to play with.
So All right. Oh yeah. Any final thoughts on Split Fiction, as we call it around here?
Spliction.
All right. Avowed. Dan Riker, I think you've probably played the most out of all of us. If not,
last night I'm at like 36 hours.
Okay. Right. Why don't you kind of break down what this game is for people that still don't know, and then kind of give your thoughts.
Well, geez, I saw the reveal of it. What was it at Summer Games Fest last year? And it's like, okay, sure, that looks fine. Didn't really clock with me at all. Not a big, RPG guy. But so yeah, I just downloaded it and I was like, I'll give it a shot, see what this is about. And first night I downloaded it, I think I probably played 6-7 hours. I just immediately got into it because, like, as much as I've enjoyed Oblivion, Skyrim, Fallout, the Bethesda framework,
you don't dislike those games, yeah?
No, I actually really like them. But I feel I'm ready for the next evolution of that, which kind of is what this feels like, because the old Bethesda ones always felt so wooden. Even like going to Starfield and everything, like, it just kind of felt wooden, not just the dialogue and things like that, but I'm a dewy video game guy. I like the moment to moment. I like platformers. I like action games. And it's like, I think Grubb, you and I were talking about that first time that you're a guy coming from this government force to come into this island called the Living Lands, which is just kind of this like no man's land. A bunch of people have just set up cities and things like that, but it's just kind of doing its own thing over there. And you crash on this island nearby and you start fighting these lizards. And right away, I was like, ooh, that felt good. Ooh, that felt like it really connected. There's some good collision going on here. This is first-person melee combat is famously difficult to make feel good, and that felt really great. And then, oh shit, I got a wand and I got this grimoire, and now all of a sudden, oh shit, I'm like, dual fisting this. I got this cool wand with like infinite magic ammo. It's just like a stamina meter, and then this grimoire where I can just hold LT and pick one of 4 fun like fire and frost and lightning effects and everything. So I was very quickly like, oh shit, this feels really good. Whereas like if it felt like a traditional like Bethesda game, I might have fallen off pretty quickly. And then I started playing more and more, and the story started getting me more. And I'm not a story character narrative guy, but I'm like, man, the whole idea of like, it's not just the same fantasy tropes. It's not just dragons and castles. It's this whole dream scourge. It's this thing, like if you've seen the key art, if you've seen the box art and the title screen, it's really cool. It's just like a skeleton with like trees and flowers and shit growing all inside him. And that is very much what's going on with this Dream Scourge, which is the main kind of story beat here, is like, oh shit, this thing's kind of taking over this island, and they've sent you in to kind of like, look into it and send a message to the ambassador and blah, blah, blah. But, the thing is, there's a lot of choices that feel like they matter. And you come in as kind of this like naive, like, I'm just working with the Adirians. And then you start learning more about the Adirians, and you learn more about kind of the rebel faction here. And then there's like these kind of religious zealots over here. And then it's just like, you get to make really interesting decisions about like kind of which side you want to take. And I'm, 36 hours in, I'm in like the third big area, basically. It's not big, square open world the way that a lot of these games are. It's more kind of zones where it's like, here's like a biggish area here, do all your stuff mopped up, and then a story thing will take you to the second one, then on to the second one. You can go back, but like, enemies stay dead. There are some like story-based events that change, the previous places you've been to. But yeah, I've always been wary of like side quests in games like this because, even like, Fallout and Skyrim and stuff like that, there's just a lot of like, oh, there's bandits down by the river, go kill a bunch of them. And it's just like, okay, I did that and got whatever. Like here is closer to a Witcher type thing where it's like, I want to do every side thing because I don't know which one of these is going to turn into a hour-and-a-half long, trek through all these caves and this mystery and choices and stuff. And it's everything's paid. Like there haven't been side things where I'm like, oh, I got to do another one of these things. It's got bounties and stuff like that you see a lot, but those are still fun too here. So yeah, it is. I think it's tremendous. I love the way it does kind of that KOTOR style, like, because I've always hated turn-based combat. And this one, you can do the moment to moment, just shooting and stabbing and stuff. But then at any point you can hit LB. I'm playing on controller. And you've got companions, and you can say like, okay, I want you to do your explosive thing to this group over here. You do a heal, and then when I unpause, I'm going to do this bull charge into this group here. And it's like, okay, unpause, and then you see all this stuff happen, bodies flying everywhere, good ragdolling and all that. Just immensely satisfying, no matter how you play the combat. And I've seen the complaints about the difficulty and the crafting and the grind. And honestly, like I feel like most of the negative sentiment I've seen has been because of that.
Yeah.
And I don't know if this is the game's fault at not surfacing this more, because like I have not found that to be a problem at all. I feel like on the normal difficulty, I've died exactly how much I would want to die in a game like this, where it's like I stumble into the wrong camp or whatever, I get my ass kicked. You know, I'll go level up, get some gear better, and come back and win. Because as far as like your health, I think making food at like, there's camps that you can set up, and that's where you kind of chat with your companions, you level things up. Just go to the pot, the fire, and make everything you can make. There's no reason to have these individual components, these apples, these whatever. Make all these stews and beers and potions and things like that. And then if you're having trouble with this combat encounter, go in there and just drink a ton of shit. And it's like, all right, I'm dealing 20% more damage. I'm taking 20% less damage. I'm health regenerating stuff. I've got tons of that. And then you've got the essence potions, stuff like that for your magic. You get like your own personal godlike powers, where it's just like basically a mana thing that you can do to heal yourself and your companions. And your companions can get powers too to heal you. So like I felt at any given time, it's like, oh shit, I'm out of potions. Okay, well I'm going to have them heal me, or I'm going to use my god power. And take your time, pause, look around, heal when necessary. I did not find it that difficult. And the crafting stuff, I think... Okay, this is something I was thinking about a lot. I was thinking back to when I played Red Dead 2 and Death Stranding, and I hated it the first time around. And both those times were because I was rushing through it, and I was like, God damn it, this game keeps going. I got to get this beat before embargo, because we're going to talk about it on the podcast, or I might be reviewing this or something. And so I'm rushing from thing to thing. And I hated both those games. And then I came back to both of them years later, taking my time with no time restrictions. And I was like, oh, okay, I think the rush pre-release really impacted my enjoyment of this. And I could see myself, like, if I had to review this, because it came in kind of hot. The codes came in fairly, like, within a week or so. And I saw some reviews saying they beat it in like 30 hours. And it's like, fuck, I'm 36 in, and I feel like I'm not even quite close to the end. So it makes me wonder, were reviewers or were people trying to rush through this a bit and not doing the side quest stuff, that if you're doing side quest stuff and you're exploring, you're getting all that fucking petrified wood and the leather and all the stuff you need. And there's systems in place to where you can take the smaller stuff and make the bigger crafting materials, or you can break down the bigger ones to get the lower ones you need. Like, all the systems are there in this game to make it a smooth experience. But I don't know if A, it was surfaced enough maybe, or B, if some people pre-release were rushing through it, because I've had no problems with that.
I also think that like a lot of people are, and that's why I'm so deeply curious to see what the conversation with this game is post it actually being out. Because you can, if you have Game Pass, you can get it now.
If you have the extra money,
$20. Yeah,
I think
and then otherwise it'll come out for shoot on the 18th. But I think a lot of people are used to games that do not have any kind of friction in them at all, which is like, that's fine. I think I personally, all of this stuff is so deeply exciting to me, because I am really tired of playing games that are like, not where Avowed wants you to play it, obviously, but it also is like, you're supposed to engage with this thing. We don't want your brain to turn off while you are engaging with this thing. We want you to kind of play it. I've been playing a lot of Citizen Sleeper 2, which is like is different, obviously, but it is also a thing where I'm really having to sit down and kind of figure out. My brain is actively working all of the time when I'm playing that game, reading that game, and this seems like, there are ways that you can fuck yourself over. Like, deeply. If you spend all of your currency or your resources on shit that you actually don't need or want, absolutely, you're going to be fucked.
They have systems to fix that, though. Yeah, you can anytime base some gold and kind of reallocate all your ability points and things like that. What are you going to say, Dan?
Niki, that reminds me. That's another tip if people are struggling with that. Do not sell your stuff. As you are getting, you'll get a bunch of fine axe or fine bow or all these things. There's a temptation to sell that stuff. Don't do that. Money comes fairly easily in this game through side quests, and you can sell, like, there's loot. There's like emeralds and topazes and things that are, it tells you specifically, like, this is for money, sell this at a vendor. All the other stuff, every time you get a weapon you're not going to use, break it down. You just look at it in the menu, hold in X, breaks it down, gets your crafting materials. I think that's a big part of the reason I have not been want for crafting materials at all. So that's a big tip if you're struggling.
Yeah, people can't read.
Yeah. I mean,
Well, I want to hear Tam, because I know
Yeah,
Tam's more, because Tam, I can't do the get good thing. Tam is Mr. FromSoft.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
I can't. This isn't a skill issue, so I'm curious Tam's experience.
Yeah, Tam, we'll give you the floor here in a second. We're very curious to hear your perspective because it's a different perspective. I'll just say, like, to add on to what Dan said and kind of what Niki was saying. Like Dan's describing, like, okay, yeah, taking all these potions and setting up so you know how to use all your companions' abilities and things like that. And it's like, okay, yeah, that stuff was working for me, but I also found my own way of dealing with problems. Of like, I stumbled upon a grimoire that had some cool stuff in it pretty early, and so I was able to like get some magic armor and a magic staff that can take on much higher level enemies. So I just like mix that into the spells as I'm in combat, and that stuff wears off after a minute or two. So it's like, okay, I got to back up, and that's when I send my companions in to kind of keep stuff away from me for a minute while I am recharging on cooldown. And so it's like it's just a role play. It's the role play of combat. Of I've got these options in front of me. I've explored them. This is what's working for me. It's going to be different from what's working for Dan. And that's some of the magic here, is that you can really express yourself through the combat, and you want to because it's so much fun.
And it's also noteworthy, and this is a really small thing, but unlike a lot of fantasy role-playing games where, you go into the menu, you equip and unequip your stuff, you have two loadouts in this game. Yeah. And so at any moment, you can just tap Y and switch to your other set of weapons. And so you can like alternate and juggle between those mid-fight and like use all these different abilities that those each grant. It adds a lot of variability.
And everything's fun to use. The bow and arrow's fun. Yeah. The daggers are fun. The guns are fun to use. Of course, the magic wand.
Yeah, magic rules.
Yes, magic is fantastic. The mace
I just started it last night. I just started it last night, and I tried to do this, and I think it worked, but I don't know, so I'm going to ask you guys. You can electrify water, right?
Yeah, it does the Bioshock thing. Yeah.
Fuck yeah.
Okay.
I gotta go.
I'm
going to play this right now.
I've got a pistol that electrifies, so I'm constantly shooting at puddles of water.
Yeah.
See what happens.
Oh yeah.
I electrified it like a pond full of lizard
my favorite
dudes
genre.
yesterday.
Yeah. All right, Tam.
I also like when you talk about, Nathan, you mentioned the like switching between sets, and it's not a thing where it's like, oh, it also includes your armor. It's simple in that it's like,
weapons.
All right, I got my wand and grimoire for range stuff, and then if some skeleton's getting up in my ass, it's like, I'll hit Y. All it switches is I got a big fucking axe, and it's not all my armor and everything.
I'm kind of amazed that other fantasy games have not really done that, because it's such a simple thing from like first-person shooters. And so why not just say like, okay, yeah, switch to your other weapons? It's like ingrained in us as people who play video games.
It's fairly simple to like, there are times where it's just like, okay, each world or each area has like these 6 gold totem things you can find that are very worth finding. And so a lot of times I'm just running around trying to uncover the map. And so it's like very easy to just like, I'm going to put on a bunch of boots and stuff that give me a speed bonus. And then I've got this companion that has an ability that gives me a speed bonus. And I've leveled that up for longer duration, everything. And I'll switch to third person. it looks like a cartoon, like Terminator running. And like my hands and feet are like purple lightning coming out of them. This kicks ass.
Hell yeah.
And there's boots
That's
and stuff.
incredible.
It's like plus 30% parcour speed. So I'm just dashing and just like clambering up
And
everything super
parkour
fast.
speed, which rules.
Yeah.
And
Parkour.
that stuff's also very good in this game. I love, as great as the combat is, the exploration really works where like if I see something or on the mini map, I'll see a little red dot of like, oh, there's an enemy, but there's a door that's barred there. How can I get in there? I bet I can. And I always find a way by like just looking around. If there's a ramp there, I'll jump up there, go around the long way. And I love that stuff. It's really good in this game.
That is the thing that has stricken me about the game in the few hours that I've played so far, is the world feels so intentionally crafted. Yeah. Like compared to even other like kind of open worldish games, like you can feel a human touch in like every corner of this thing. And like there's so many little secrets, and there's so many little areas where like you're clearly meant to go in and look at one thing and then realize, oh, there's this other thing over here actually if I like climb up over here and climb here and do that. And like my favorite example of this is that tower that you find in the first like major port city that you just like see off in the distance, and it's covered in like brambles and vines and everything. And you're like, I'm gonna climb that.
Oh yeah, it's the most enticing thing. Yes, absolutely.
Great.
And then I just found the tallest tower I've seen yet in the game, and I saw at the very top there was like a plank going off, and I was like, wait a minute. And I got on the plank and I looked down, and there was a thing like a square of water there, and I was like, I'm fucking jumping off this tower.
The first tower has that too. At the very beginning, you can jump into the ocean because I was like, I don't want to climb down this, and it like has some little boards with a rope hanging down it, which tells a story into itself.
Oh,
like somebody probably tried to climb down and they fucking died.
Story. Yep.
And so then you're like, well, I'm not going to die. I'm the main character, and so you just like sprint, run off, and as you drop down, your character literally screams. He goes,
and you see the feet like flailing, like ah.
Yeah,
it is funny. Like a lot of the writing has been really solid. Some of the choices are very funny. Man, yeah, it's great too because like most encounters and stuff, it's like, okay, do I want to be a dick about this? Are they being cool? Am I going to be cool? And then there's usually like the attack thing at the bottom you can do. And I feel like I've so rarely done that. It's usually I can find a way to kind of talk myself out of it, even without like skill check type stuff. But then every once in a while, there's like a group where it's like, man, fuck you guys. Okay, I'm just going to fucking kill all of you. Dialogue ends, magic everywhere, just slaughter. And it's like, oh man, that was fucked up. Like, it feels great.
I think that's like the Nathan, you were saying like intentionality everywhere. There's also that like it goes, it's broad in its intentionality, but it's also deep in that once you start going in these quests, and you see the various options that you can pick and the forks in the road, there's a lot of stuff that feels like we're going to put this in here, even though we know a lot of people are not going to see these things. And that's okay, because having the option and ignoring it does feel empowering to players still. And we recognize that. And so we're going to make this a deep, personalized experience. And that also has really worked for me throughout all these great conversations I'm having with the NPCs. All right, let's... not everyone does like this game. Now, Tam, I think where you set it up, you're like cool on it to kind of like not really finding it very engrossing.
I don't necessarily disagree with a lot of what was said there. I think the combat is far and away the best part of it. I'm running like a gun / knife build where I shoot from a distance, and if anyone gets close, I have a sword that every time I hit him, it gives me health back. So I'm basically unkillable. Cool. So it is very, very satisfying to play in a lot of ways. I think that the economy of like upgrades and the system, I have run up against it a few times. And I think that it's definitely resolved in large parts by doing everything. But the fact that that's basically a necessity is something that rubbed me the wrong way, because a lot of the side quests I found to be quite boring and, like, narratively speaking, quite uninteresting. Most of the characters I've encountered are very, very forgettable and throwaway. Even your main party, like the first dude you meet, Fishman, whatever his name is, I can't even remember. Garrus.
You mean Garrus?
Garrus? Yeah,
it is Garrus.
Like, I realized there was an issue there when I meet him and you speak to him, you have one conversation. He's like, "Oh hell yeah, I'll help you through everything." And I was like, "What? You
definitely
barely
golden
know
retriever.
me."
Yeah.
He's like, "Oh yeah, I'm coming with you." And I was like, "What? Why? What is your motivation? What is the deal?"
I love
I don't understand.
Yeah, he's a hot fish man who likes you. What more does it?
Is he hot though? Every time I see him, I look at him and I'm like, this is a ugly ass character.
No
he
way,
looks
dude.
really weird.
Open your mind.
He's Dan's husbando in this game. Absolutely.
He's got a shark
Titties are
teeth.
huge.
And it's like you did not take away the intended message from Shape of Water.
Fuck fish.
The fish man is hot.
He's got shark teeth and he looks like he's made out of foil. And I'm just like, why is he such a weird looking character?
No, and also, wait, his skin textures are fucking amazing. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
I just find him weird.
I mean,
I find him weird
about it, but even there, the amount of craftsmanship in this game is crazy to me. Like, it's mesmerizing.
And I think that's kind of a large part of why I'm not vibing with it. I think it just hits for some people and won't hit for other people. For me, like, the narrative is completely gibberish to me. Like, I do not care. The main quest is not hooking me at all.
It's also worth pointing out this is a offshoot of the Pillars of Eternity. So there's a lot of existing lore that is that they are using as backdrop. You can press F on keyboard when you're playing at any time, and they'll bring up if there's a blue word, they'll give you some information about that lore.
Information.
Yes,
but and that is
really
there, but like,
there's some conversations where it's like a wall of options of like proper nouns that you've heard in like three sentences, and you're like, I don't really want to go.
And that's the issue. One of the issues where, like, I felt like I was a line would come up, someone would say something, and then I was reading for like 10 minutes through like these sequence of terms, and now I'm consuming the narrative in the weirdest way possible, where I'm like hearing someone say something, and then I'm basically absorbing bullet points and then going back to it and trying to connect why that's relevant. And then in the next line, there's a different set of proper nouns where you're like, what is going on? It's a very strange way to, and like, I know a lot of people are like, oh, I love it. It's really like dense and that kind of stuff. But it's like, yeah, Mass Effect is very, very dense. But the way it's revealed to you is very contextual. And like you're part of the understanding and the discovery process of it, where like when you learn something new, you learn it because you're part of that and it's necessary to what you're about to embark on, or it's good context. With this, it's just like, here's something that exists in our world. Here's everything you need to know. Here's a Wikipedia entry on it. And also it's not relevant right now. It's like, okay, why did I need to know any of that? So like it drowns you in a lot of like lore, and I think the Pillars of Eternity like foundation can really work against it. And that is an issue that I had. And also like a lot of the characters I speak to, I genuinely feel like some of them, they come up on screen, I'm like, why do you look like that? You're so ugly, like weird looking.
I will
There's
say,
like
as much
weird
as I defend,
looking.
Yeah, I defend the companions, the first three, and then I just got the fourth one. I was like, fuck this thing. Like,
There's like NPCs where like I've run up to and I was like, are you a child or a short adult? What are you? Like, what's going on? It's so weird. Dwarf, so like that's a part of it. And then like I do think that the fact that you have to do everything is indicative of an economy that isn't properly balanced, because the fact that you need to engage in every single element of the side quest to kind of more seamlessly or smoothly or to have a better experience in the main quest is not a good kind of indication of balance, because designers know that not everyone's going to want to do everything. But if the options to ignore the things that you don't want are not available, or you're punished for it, I don't think that's a good balance. Like I've been doing everything, and even I still will have like go into a battle where it's like I cut to the end of it and like I've fought that battle and I've won, but it's been a grind. But the moment you go into a battle, like your companions are like, you need better armor. And it's like, how am I going to get better armor?
They yell that a lot. Like, even though I've got good enough armor for this stuff, they yell that a lot. So that is kind of annoying. Hey, shut up, I'm doing fine. Annoying,
you know? But it's also frustrating when you go into like your inventory to upgrade something. You know, you have that feeling where it's like, I'm going to upgrade something. You go in there, you're like, oh yes, this is available for upgrade. This game has the opposite effect, but the amount of times I go into a inventory or an upgrade menu and all my stuff is not upgradable is far more frequent than when I open it and I'm like, oh, I've got this one thing to upgrade. It's always, you need this much, this of this thing, this much of this thing, and you might find it in the wilds or you might not find it for hours and hours and hours on end. And I'm just like, I'm doing fine, but I'm getting through the game. I'm just not having fun with it. I enjoy, apart from when I'm in combat and I'm like, you know, doing the gunning and like stabbing and all that kind of business, that's enjoyable. But the moment I'm like in the world and I have to go and speak to a human, learn about what they're talking about, hear about some god that I don't really know about, and also like the god keeps talking to me and I'm like, just what are you talking about? Like, what are you on about? And like it's not. And if it was like being cryptic and then I was getting a revelation about something like small and it was like building towards something, I'd be more into it. But it's just like God appears and it's like, oh, you haven't heard from us for hours. We'd like to converse with you. And you're like, why do you need to talk to me? Why did you make me come here? Like I've had quest lines where they're like, oh, come back. You need to talk to me about moving my soul. And I was like, okay, I did it. I moved your soul into this giant thing that someone was trying to use to like nuke a civilization, but there's no meaningful, like nothing changed. You were like, okay, cool, we'll see you later. Like, God, it's like the annoying character in your ear that has got nothing really to say, but just wants you to remind you that they're there. And there's like way too much of that. And it does eventually, that like touched by a god thing does eventually build to some small moments, but it's not significant enough for me. And also like the way it manifests with the box art thing where you're like flowery and stuff. I don't think that looks good, man. Like I mean, every time I see it in cutscenes, I'm just like, ugh, turn that off. I turn it off.
Good. But I also feel like it's not necessarily meant to look good, and I kind of like that. I
find it distracting.
Because also characters react to you, and I think that's kind of neat. They're like, "Whoa, what's with your face?"
Oh yeah,
like
And I think it's really
not
funny
a reaction that you
off.
often get in video games. Usually in video games, people treat your character as though they are like perfect, or at the very least, like their appearance is immaterial. It doesn't matter.
I think
Whereas
it's more
in this game,
entertaining.
you actually get a reaction.
Yeah, I think it's more entertaining if you turn that off, because they still react to you as if your face is fucked up, but you just look normal. And they're like, oh, what's wrong with your face? And you're like, what? I look normal.
I'm a guy.
I'm just a guy.
You know,
It's like
in
really
a world
funny.
where it's bad to look normal.
But I do genuinely think this is one of those things where it's one of those like divisive games where either it will click for you and you'll be like, I'm into this, or you'll be like, I'm hitting just enough like rough edges that I don't like it. For me, I'm just like, I'm still playing it because I want to see where it goes a little bit, but I could drop it at any moment and not feel like I'm missing out on anything.
Yeah.
But the fact that it's on Game Pass, and if you have Game Pass, it's a no-brainer. Give it a few hours, see how you feel. I don't hate it. I think it's a decently well-made game. I genuinely do think if they rebalance the economy of like upgrades and that kind of stuff, it'll be a considerably better game.
Yeah, I think this is one that people will have a better time with if they do a dance and they like kind of let themselves get into the ebb and flow of the way the game pushes against you and stuff like that. So like when you are running up against those rough edges, it's like that's actually the game pushing you back and say go do something else for a little bit. And if people feel like they can get into that, I think they're going to have a really good time with this game. If they're not in the mood for that, I think they will bounce off. But I think over time, the vast majority of the audience probably will find themselves be like, no, I am ready to kind of get myself over to what this game's trying to do. And I think it's going to have a kind of long legs and kind of a reassessment here pretty soon from a lot of players that really enjoy it.
It's the best Bethesda game in a long time.
Obsidian. This is Obsidian,
No, I mean Bethesda game.
I mean,
it's the Bethesda game. Obsidian. Obsidian.
Vegas.
Yes,
they gave us the best Bethesda game in a long time.
Obsidian have basically built a kind of legacy on making better versions of what Bethesda does, and this is another in that line where Starfield came out. Starfield, very different game. I played it and I was like, this is ass. I don't want anything to do with it. But I still had the kind of itch for a Bethesda style game. Like I want it to feel like I'm playing Skyrim or Oblivion or something like that. And this does scratch that itch. It doesn't work for me in the same way, but I feel like a lot of people are going to play it and be like, oh, this is what I've been waiting for in the lead up to like an Elder Scrolls. So a lot of people, if you're into Bethesda games, definitely play this because it probably will hit for you.
Although again, with the caveat that I think Bethesda games tend to be like very wide open and unfocused. And I think this world feels much more crafted and much more like it wants you to do certain things. It wants to nudge you along certain paths.
Yeah.
But also, it occurred to me, Obsidion does what Bethesda don't.
There it is.
There you go.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Put that on the back of the box.
Let's put that on the back of your new book for no reason. I don't know.
A quick anecdote of the shit that I love about this game. I saw chat mention like, oh, I just saw that you can freeze water and walk on it. And like, yes, you can. It teaches you that because you can like knock down these like little freeze berries, and if it lands in water, it makes a little ice platform. Not just that. I learned that I was like, oh, if that works, hang on. I had a spell that makes like an ice ring around me. It's like a defensive frost shield thing. So I went out to like a big lake and I did the frost shield thing, which lasts for 20, 30 seconds. And I was able to sprint across the lake as it froze underneath my feet. And it's like, oh, that type of shit.
Just
I'm like, yes,
Christ.
this is a video game. Yeah.
It's just like
good
Christ.
systems.
Yeah.
Well, and it doesn't have a lot of systems that it's not like ready to fully flesh out. Like there is no real law system. Usually everything that's in the world that's sitting around, even if it's in other people's houses, you could just pick it up. You're not, it doesn't qualify as stealing. And you get the sense they're like, we could have done that, but we would have had to half-ass it, so let's just not do it at all. And I'm probably the right choice. Now, I missed some of that stuff, but I'm glad it's not here and done in a way that is half-assed. And then I just think overall that they really just focus on the stuff they wanted to do well. You were going to say, Tam?
How is your technical performance? Because I've been playing on Xbox, and it's not very consistent. I've had areas where I walk into and it's like, oh,
this is an Unreal Engine 5 game. It is an open world Unreal Engine 5 game. As always, those can be pretty heavy in some areas, and this is especially in the city. With the 5080, I was getting like 30 frames per second sometimes. Yeah.
Huh.
I'm finding with the 4090, I have not had issues. I had the one issue I had was not a performance thing. It was like a bounty thing where it's like you have to kill 5 of these pretty tough enemies, and I died several times. Like, oh, I finally did it, and only 4 of the like trophies that you have to return spawned. And so it's like I picked up 4 of them, and it was like you still need to get one more. And I was looking around, I was like, "What the fuck?" So I did have to roll back to save a couple times. That was the one big issue.
But not very buggy otherwise, though. This has been, especially for an Obsidian game.
I think it kind of varies because I know our reviewer had a bunch of bugs.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go.
Like quest lines that would break and required him to like restart. And it's interesting because it's interesting, but like they patched it like a few hours before the review embargo went up, so we had to like quickly change our reviews because they fixed that stuff. But it is very much like for me. I found it too. I wanted to play on Xbox because Xbox I don't play it enough, so I wanted to play a bunch of that on there. And I've been having no crashes. No, I did have one crash actually. Okay. It was just in a menu, and it was like, I don't know what to do.
The Xbox loves to crash though. Like that thing will find an excuse to crash playing fucking iDarb. Like it is not difficult to get the Xbox to turn off.
Yeah, the weirdest pull you could have given for that.
What is it? What is that an acronym for? I drew a red box. Okay. Very cool.
The kids can't stop talking about iDarb.
My children are obsessed with it for sure. They watch all their favorite iDarb creators.
iDarbs. Yeah. Your kids shouldn't be watching iDarbs.
Last couple of things. I think to speak to the economy thing that Tam was talking about. One quick fix. Just put in a blood moon so that some of the in-world enemies can just respawn so you can go out and get more resources when you want. Just do that immediately. I think this is going to solve a lot of people's problems with this game. And then some people in chat were just wondering, how did everyone feel about Outer Worlds and how do you compare it to this? I liked Outer Worlds a lot at first. I cooled on it over time because it just didn't have the juice as it went on. And I think this is a better game overall. How about y'all?
I feel the exact same. I agree. Beat Outer Worlds, enjoyed it, but not nearly on the level I'm enjoying this.
Yep. Cool. Yeah. All right. I think that's going to do it. Let's see here. Anything else from Giant Bomb? Yeah, we are going to have UPF here in a little bit. Niki, you want to play some Rocket League?
Let's play Rocket League.
Yeah, that sounds like fun to me. We're bringing sports
everyone
back.
Go buy Nathan's book.
Yes. And then once again, Nathan's book available next week.
It's called...
go ahead.
Yeah. Oh, wait, do you have a copy?
It's over in the other room, so I don't have it on me. Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm going to hold
it up again.
Yeah. It's called Stream Big, The Triumphs and Turmoils of Twitch and the Stars Behind the Screen by Nathan Grayson. And it's out next week on February 18th. You can pre-order it wherever books are sold. Also, I am the co-founder of a website called Aftermath.site. We write about video game news and things of that nature. We're worker-owned, users or reader-supported. Go check that out. I think we do good work. And also, if you like Giant Bomb, you'll probably like what we do too.
Yep,
absolutely.
100%.
Yep.
Great website.
All right. For everyone from Giant Bomb, for Nathan, thank you everybody for joining us. We're going to get out of here. Till next time, have a good one. Take care of yourself and goodbye.
Bye.